Hello, everybody, and welcome to the June edition of Let's Talk. It has been a crazy past few weeks, and is going to continue to stay crazy for at least a little bit longer as I continue this whole 2 uploads a day schedule, which is not going to be permanent, I promise. We'll talk about that a bit later. This has just kind of been a feeling out period, throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall to see what sticks. And I think I now have an idea of what I want to do for the foreseeable future. It'll all make sense. It's going to be relatively the same, just structured a little bit differently and not quite as much quantity over quality as it has been for the past little bit. But we're going to actually start this month's edition of Let's Talk by actually following up on what we were talking about back in April in regards to the PlayStation Plus changes. And I'm going to be pretty brief with this on my thoughts on the whole thing because I more or less said everything I needed to say in that edition, but we did learn a couple of new pieces of information since then, and we also obviously got our look at the games list for the extra and premium tiers, and I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on those because I talked about how it doesn't initially seem like it's going to be anything all that great. There are a few things that Sony is doing, like PS3 cloud streaming, that I feel like are almost non-factors because cloud streaming games is terrible and you should never, ever play video games that way. It's the worst way to experience any video game. But my overall thoughts on the entire affair was essentially, we can't say for sure how good or bad it is until we see the list of games. And now that we've seen that, I have to say that I am pretty not underwhelmed because I didn't have super high expectations to begin with. I'm just whelmed. Me personally, I have no reason to get extra or premium whatsoever. Not at all. Almost everything in the premium tier that's not in the extra tier, I already have access to that. Most of the best stuff in the extra tier, I also have access to that. And let's start with the extra tier really quickly. Obviously, this is the one more people were interested in because it's where all of the PS4 and PS5 games are. Now, to a lot of people, they were already kind of lost on the idea of it as soon as Sony announced that we would not be getting first-party PlayStation games on this service day one. We were going to have to wait a little bit. This was demonstrated further by the fact that a game like Horizon Forbidden West is not on the service as of right now because it's only a few months out, but something like Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, which is only a year old, is on the service, and anything pretty much older than that is also on the service. God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, Horizon Zero Dawn, Days Gone, pretty much everything that was in the PS Plus Essentials collection, as well as any first-party game that was released in 2021 or earlier is on the service. And that's great and all, that's awesome, but as somebody who has been buying PlayStation games pretty regularly since the PS2 days, I am of the mind that a service like this is not at all for me, because I already have all these games. I've been following PlayStation. I have every single big release that the system has. I've always just been a PlayStation guy. It's not that I dislike Xbox or anything. I have an Xbox. I have a 360 and an original Xbox. I love those systems. But I have always preferred to play whenever I have the option on PlayStation, pretty much just because I like the controller better. That's like the only reason why I play on PlayStation more. I mean, they're really not all that different otherwise. It's really stupid making comparisons like that, and I'm definitely not a believer in console wars or anything. But to me, as somebody who is, heavily invested in PlayStation, I already have all these games, the big releases. What I want Sony to deliver with a service like this, personally, is discoverability. And this is actually something I love about Xbox Game Pass. A lot of people will make the argument that Xbox Game Pass, I mean, they're like, well, it's the first-party games come out day one. Who cares? Xbox games aren't that great or whatever. You can make any argument you want. I don't think that holds a lot of weight, though, because Xbox does such a good job at delivering games that most people would have no business buying in the first place available to them, and they get to actually play those for the first time and experience them. We've already seen that a few times on this channel. Sable was a really interesting experience that I would not have ever touched without Xbox Game Pass, and I can count dozens and dozens of games that I've had those sorts of experiences with. There's actually another one that I'm going to be uploading here in about a month or so that I actually played for the first time the same way, well, kind of for the first time, the same way that you're going to see coming out, and that's probably going to end up turning into a longer form series because of how into it I have become. So to me, I subscribe to these services to get the stuff I don't already buy, and I can understand to a lot of people, especially those who don't spend a lot of money on games or don't have the means to spend a lot of money on games, having a service like this is much more appealing, especially people who are just getting into PlayStation and haven't had time to acquire all of the what people would consider to be essential games, all of the big first-party games and stuff like that. To those people, this makes a lot of sense, but to somebody who is I don't want to say diehard PlayStation because I don't ascribe to the PlayStation fanboy moniker. It's just I have a lot of games for the systems. As somebody who is like that, this service has no value to me because I have almost everything on it that I would want to bother getting. It doesn't really have a lot in the hidden gems, almost like even bad games. Bad games that still at least deserve a chance to shine to the right audience. Even those aren't available on this service. And Game Pass, even if only briefly, is willing to give that spotlight to games so that people can check them out that wouldn't have otherwise ever given them the time of day. And that's what I appreciate about Game Pass that PlayStation Plus Extra is failing to deliver on. Premium, on the other hand, is a completely other beast, and while the initial fears about the emulation being very poor might be unfounded, there was initial worries that everyone was getting the PAL editions, which would have been awful, because that's how the PlayStation Classic was, and it's also what was initially revealed in like Asian territories as being the reality, that we were getting the PAL versions, which run at 50 hertz, which does not work on NTSC displays, and yeah, that was a whole issue on top of other things. It turns out that most of that is unfounded, but even still, the premium selection at the moment is extremely paltry. It's very, very small. I mean, I'm talking like only a couple dozen games in total. Most of these games actually aren't even all that great, and they're missing a lot of what we would consider to be core PlayStation 1 games that were already on the service on the PlayStation 3. And I was initially under the impression that we were going to be getting a lot of those games from the start. We got some of those games, but it's such a small amount, it's not worth upgrading at all at the very get-go. And, like I said, I just still consider the streaming capabilities of PlayStation 3 games to be a non-factor. That in no way should factor into anybody's value proposition for premium, just because it is objectively inferior. It is the worst way to play a video game, and I can't imagine anyone is going to get suckered in to premium for that reason. So, all in all, premium, I think, don't even touch it right now. Wait until they release a lot more for the service. If you already have ownership of some of the games that are on the premium service, you'll just get them anyway. So that also mitigates the issue a little bit. And as for extra, again, if you're like me and you're heavily into PlayStation, almost all the stuff that you've already purchased is what makes up that list of games. There's not a whole lot of discoverability and interesting third-party games to be found in there, which it may seem at first glance like a big game list, but when you really think about all of the stuff that most PlayStation users already have, it suddenly becomes a whole lot smaller. So, to those of you new to PlayStation, I might recommend Extra, but that's just about it. All right, now let's talk about the games that we've been playing over the last month. I have not had a ton of time to squeeze in games in between recording because of how much I have been doing. If I have played any games outside of recording, it's either been, well, the usual suspects, and actually handheld games. I kind of jumped back into Legends Arceus with the Pokemon Bank update a bit, and I also started Persona 2 Eternal Punishment on my PS Vita, a game that I've always been really interested in trying because Persona is one of those few JRPG series that actually kind of clicks with me, not to the degree that a normal Persona fan would think. I have only played Persona 3 and 4 all the way through. I have played Persona 3 FES, which many people would consider is the absolute worst way to play that game, simply due to the fact that you don't have control of your entire party. You can only control your main character. I've always wanted to play the portable edition, but haven't gotten around to it. And then as for Persona 4, I have only played the original version, not Golden. So I played the one on the PlayStation 2. I have not touched Persona 5. I have not touched the original Persona, which I don't think that's really an easy thing to do in the first place. And I'm just now getting around to Persona 2. And personally, 3 is actually my favorite in the series, at least from a character standpoint. So getting back into 2, I was expecting it to be more along the lines of 3 than 4. And it is, but I also feel like Persona didn't quite hit its stride when it comes to character design and the writing department until 3, because 2 is a little bit too, I don't know how to put this without upsetting anybody, a little too anime for me in comparison to this. Like, I get that they're all anime, but 3 and 4 can be a bit more down-to-earth in the way of writing. They can be a bit more sensible, a little bit more realistic, and a lot more relatable. 2 is a little bit more tropey, a little more stereotype-ridden, in terms of the character writing, so it's not clicking with me all the way. The gameplay is still phenomenal. I'm still loving that. It is one of the better turn-based RPGs out there. That whole series just kind of wins in that department. And I don't know if I'm going to finish the whole thing. I'm going to give it a try, but I would say I'm in like the 6 or 7 out of 10 range with a game like this. Like, it's good. It's above average, but I'm not like immediately thinking I need to finish this entire thing. So I might transition over to Persona 5 here soon, give that game a shot, finally see what that's all about. You have to remember, I'm not an RPG person. If the protagonist of the game isn't a Pokemon trainer or Mario, you can almost guarantee that I really won't even think about playing it for more than 5 minutes. But that being said, there is one other game that I have been playing when I've had the time to do it. I've got about 5 hours in, and that is the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, as for Final Fantasy, I also have a bit of a weird, interesting history with that. I did not grow up on the PlayStation 1, so I did not play really any of those Final Fantasy games until I was much older. 7 was not the one that clicked with me either. Neither was 8. It was actually Final Fantasy 9 that I enjoyed the most. 7 was just a little bit too dated, a little bit too old, and I just wasn't a huge fan of it. So going into the remake, I had no nostalgic biases whatsoever. And I still love it. It is still fantastic. I mean, again, for the I think maybe 5 hours that I have played of it so far, I am having an absolute blast with it. It does, again, get a little bit tropey, a little bit silly. There's a lot of those Square Enix-isms, which I am not a fan of at all. I kind of get annoyed by a lot of those writing cliches that Square Enix is guilty of, but this game handles it really well, much better than something like a Kingdom Hearts or even like Final Fantasy 15 did. And overall, I am actually having a very good time with it. I intend to play a whole lot more of it, hopefully finishing the entire thing by the end of the summer. I figured that because we have such a dry summer, although obviously that remains to be seen with all of the announcements coming up over the next week. But because we seem to have such a dry summer in terms of releases, I figured now would be a great time to jump into some RPGs before I run out of time to do that. And this has been sort of the fruits of my endeavors, Persona 2, Final Fantasy VII Remake. I hope to play a lot more of these, and maybe I can get back to you guys with a final verdict on both of these games in the future. So let me know what you guys have been playing. Now let me know what you have been up to. Otherwise, what sorts of games you've gone back to, what sorts of games that just came out that maybe I missed. Tell me all about that sort of stuff. I'm always interested in finding out more games that I have missed out on. I am a connoisseur, as it were, regardless of genre. It's just that sometimes the longer games are a little bit harder for me to play, being an adult with a lot of responsibilities and all of that nonsense. Oh, and I should probably also mention that the reason you're seeing Uncharted 4 gameplay in this Let's Talk is because I've also taken a little bit of time to play the Legacy of Thieves edition of Uncharted 4 again on my PlayStation 5 because I got it for like $10. I was like, might as well give it a shot again because I haven't played this since 2016. Okay, that is enough of that. Let's get talking about channel-related issues, about content structure and things like that. First of all, what do you guys think so far? I know it's a little crazy, a little eccentric. It's a bit of a whirlwind, seeing all of these different series going up, only 2 a day, so it's just constantly something different. In a lot of ways, I can see that as being beneficial, while also being incredibly overwhelming. I know for a fact that the YouTube algorithm absolutely hates it because YouTube likes consistency in its algorithm and wants you to conform to some very strict rules. But when have I ever been a slave to the YouTube algorithm? Regardless, my entire intention of what I've been doing has just been basically to give people a variety of choices. Whatever game they're interested in, whatever series they want to check out, I just want to give people a lot of different options. But I also know that people can't get around to watching something as soon as it comes out at all times. That's fine. I've always operated under the idea that people will get around to things later because that's typically what happens with my videos. My day 1 impressions are usually a lot weaker than my day 365 impressions. I know that sounds strange to people, but that's how the analytics on my channel have always worked, and I don't really mind that so much. I just, as long as I have this stuff out there for people to watch, enjoy, and to view, that's all I care about. But that being said, I can't keep up with this forever. I can't. I mean, it's been fun. It's been great, and I have been working my butt off and enjoying every second of it. But I have a life. I have other responsibilities, and being able to have 2 uploads a day every single day is just unreasonable. It's absolutely unreasonable to keep for a super long time. Now, that being said, this is going to continue at least through the month of June because I already have everything scheduled through the month of June, which is great. That's awesome. I've gotten that far ahead. In fact, I have almost the entire month of July scheduled out as well. But things are going to slow down a little bit here in the future, and I kind of want to get you guys familiar and acquainted with a new way of doing things as we go. So I've been doing a lot of what I would call dartboard discoverability, in that I essentially put up a bunch of names and just throw whatever at that and go, yeah, you know what, that's fine, we'll cover that today, and putting it up and seeing how it goes. And so far it's been fun, like I said, but I also noticed that it has two unintended side effects. One, I think it gives people the wrong impression and sets up the wrong expectations, because I've said many times that I would like to continue series as we come into them, especially games that I find interesting. But the problem is there's a lot of games that I do not find interesting that a lot of people come to see that they really like. For instance, Killzone. That video sure got a lot of impressions at the beginning, and it sure got a lot of dislikes because I think a lot of people have very fond memories of the original Killzone, and when they saw that I absolutely disliked it and hated it, they were none too happy about that, which is understandable. I don't expect to find common ground with people on everything. I mean, I just didn't think it was very good, but it's not like it's the only Killzone out there, and in fact, I've played Killzone Shadowfall, and I actually quite like that game. Much, much better than the original Killzone, and I also haven't given Killzone 2 a shot, which I have heard by many people is the best in the series. So I can't speak too soon. I just thought the first game was trash, and I might check it out later. Who knows? Regardless, that is one issue that people might have with the sorts of videos I'm making, so I can't just grab any game and expect it to go well. In fact, there's quite a few videos I have made, I would say about half a dozen or so, on games that I have given a shot to, and it was so bad that I was like, I can't even upload this, and then I just abandoned it because there was nothing salvageable about it. The other problem is, again, that consistency that I think people expect. I feel like I am kind of making people's heads spin with the sorts of games that I am just kind of throwing out there and sticking at the wall, especially because they are so diverse, so different. There's no particular niche that I'm falling into except for maybe the consoles that I've been playing on, because I'll usually I'll fire up the 360 and be like, I'm going to record 3 different games on this before I move on to the next one, and as a result, it kind of means that those videos get sort of bunched up together, which that's really the only level of consistency I can say that I've been having so far on these videos. But I can understand that this is overwhelming people quite a bit. So as far as just checking out completely new games that I have absolutely no preconceived biases towards whatsoever, that I have no desire to play, I've just been kind of drawing the names out of a hat, that stuff is going to start to go away. I mean, not entirely, but it's going to be much, much less frequent. Between the 3 kind of random series, let's have a look at games I remember and I've always wanted to try, I've been doing significantly more let's have a look at than the other 2, especially because the other 2 often turn into longer form series, looking at Greg Hastings' Tournament Paintball, looking at Medal of Honor Airborne, looking at Kena Bridge of Spirits. Those ones all kind of came out of those series, and they just continue because of the nature of the games that they are. But I want to do more games like those in the future because they turn out to be better, more positive experiences. But if I do too many games like that, obviously we can only run so many long-form series at a time. A good example of that is I haven't uploaded an episode of Paintball Game in a little while, and I'm not done with that series, but I haven't really had a place to fit it. It's just, it doesn't have anywhere else to go. So at the moment, it's just kind of sitting in the background, essentially waiting for Medal of Honor Airborne to finish, actually, before I bring it back. Which, again, to people who are interested in that, I know that can be a bit of a problem. Although Medal of Honor Airborne obviously has priority because a lot of people really want to see more of it right now. And so I figured, I'll just finish the campaign and move on from that before we get into something else. It's not a particularly long game as it is. So all of this coming together, what does this mean exactly? What am I trying to say here? Well, basically, what I'm saying is, let's have a look at, we're doing less of that. Games I remember and I've always wanted to try, those 2 series, not necessarily more, but they are going to take more of a prevalence when it comes to variety, random content, things like that. But as for the other 5 slots, which as of right now are Horizon Forbidden West, Forza Horizon 3, Fallout 4, Kena Bridge of Spirits, and Kirby and the Forgotten Land, all of those are just going to kind of persist for a little while. Out of all of those, Kina is definitely going to be the one that finishes first. Probably Kirby second, but Kirby probably won't be done until the month of August. Kina probably is going to be done by the middle of July. I've actually fully recorded that one in its entirety. Forza Horizon 3 and Forbidden West have just such a long way to go. I'm not even looking to when those two are finished. And Fallout 4 is the youngest of the 5 series, so it's the least far along, but it's probably going to be around in the 30 episode range would be my guess, so you can probably expect to see that one done in around September, I think. But as for every other time slot, I'm going to basically make it so it's no longer a guarantee that I upload in those spaces. I really want to focus on the main series at hand, and I want to start really bringing the channel around to more long form series, again, without overwhelming people, which is kind of a hard thing to juggle just because, you know, so many people are interested in so many things, and, you know, I can only upload so many times a week, and because of that, it also means that a lot of these series go longer than they otherwise would. I mean, when you're only uploading 2 videos a week, it makes for very long Let's Plays. I mean, just look at Ghost of Tsushima, for instance. It was the only series that I ran last year. 2 uploads a week. How long did it take? It took the whole year. I didn't finish it. I started it in January, and I finished it in December. Like, that's how long that game took. And yes, I know it is one of the longer games, but that's still crazy long. I mean, that was a 91 episode Let's Play. Forbidden West is looking to be longer. Forza Horizon 3 is looking to probably at least compare. In fact, I am now just recording the very last touches of the vanilla campaign and moving into Blizzard Mountain so we can start on that. That's one of 2 expansions that we still have left to look at for that game. They're gonna be long, but I have this problem of having so many other games that I want to cover, and it's just trying to fit all of that in it's a challenge. It really is, and especially dealing with episode lengths as well, because that's an entirely separate issue that I've gone over many times. Do I want to make the episode lengths long or short? With Let's Plays, I would like to keep them on the longer side, but with everything else, I'm trying to shoot for a maximum of 20, maybe in some cases 25 minutes. So it really is a challenge trying to find time and find a place for all of these games. And I know there are people that have certain expectations, that have certain asks of me, that want me to check out certain games, and I've been trying to be a little bit more accommodating of those as of late. It's the whole reason I even started Medal of Honor Airborne in the first place. It's also why in the future here I'm actually going to be checking out Midnight Club 2, even though for years I have said I'd never intend to do that. It is the one that I'm actually willing to give a shot to, because I've tried the first Midnight Club. I thought it was terrible. I really do not like Midnight Club Los Angeles, so the last one left is the one that naturally I think I might as well give a chance to, especially as the more I've heard about it, the more it does seem like it is a lot more similar to Midnight Club 3, my personal favorite, and obviously one of the Let's Plays that brought a lot of people to my channel. And of course, another often requested thing of me is Pokemon, which I do intend to do in the future, but I like to leave the main series Pokemon games to my Let's Plays. And because of how long Forbidden West and Forza are running, I just don't really have a place to fit a Pokemon game on top of that elsewhere on the channel. I mean, can you imagine if I started like an 80, 90 episode Let's Play of Pokemon Platinum or something like that right now in the middle of all this? That would just, it would make things so stagnant, which is exactly what I'm trying to avoid. And I've been trying to get a Pokemon White Let's Play going, and I think that's just going to have to wait. I think that's going to have to wait until after Horizon or Forza's done, whichever's first. It's probably going to be Forza, and then we'll move on to something in the main series of Pokemon. But in the meantime, I'm not against looking at spin-offs. I actually recorded a few episodes of Pokepark for the Nintendo Wii, which I know is a kid's game and nothing like other Pokemon games, but I recorded a few episodes of that you're going to be seeing here somewhat soon, probably in like a month or so, given how far out I am on uploads, but you're going to be seeing that. I'm also thinking about finally checking out, in a long-term sense, Pokemon Coliseum. I did a first impressions of it way back in the day, but I think I'm finally willing to actually sit down and check it out, because I do fully intend to check out Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness at some point in the future, because that's the one that I actually have a history with, have beaten all the way through, and am not necessarily a fan of, but I do think that it is a pretty alright game and would like to give it the time of day. But that's not it. I mean, there's so many other things that I have on the docket. I'll even give you guys an example. So I keep a few separate lists for all of my video ideas, and I try to tackle each of these whenever I get the inspiration or the mood or the desire to jump into each of these. Now, the first one is just kind of my throw darts at the wall. This is whatever I want to just grab to fill the void. I have that list of games, which is a very long list. It's essentially the same as my actual game collection list. But my other list is more of the games I remember, games I've always wanted to try, that sort of stuff. And it's kind of a two-part list, but I have it saved on my phone and on my computer, and I like to go over it every once in a while and see, all right, what would be something that would be interesting to check out right now? What's something that I'm actually personally in the mood for? And things like that. But the last list, and the oldest list, and the most important list is my Let's Play list. My Let's Play and Longform series list. These are all of the games that I would be willing to give the Let's Play treatment to in one way or another, or if I can't give them the Let's Play treatment, I can at least do a full playthrough of them, either purely out of interest or because I actually do have quite a history with them and want to talk about them. And I try to actually keep the thing in chronological order. I do have a bunch of stuff, like a whole secondary section of the list that's just kind of like, okay, where I have no idea where to put these games, but they belong on the list. I just don't know when I can get to them. But as for the chronological part, I'll even tell you exactly what it looks like right now. I'll read off like the first 10, or I'll read off the first 15 entries for you guys, so you guys have an idea of what to expect in the future. And it includes some active stuff. So I got Forza Horizon 3 at the top. Then I've got Tulip with a little asterisk next to it, which means that I don't know if I'm going to be continuing it in the future, but it is there. I've got the paintball game. I've got Horizon Forbidden West, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Fallout 4, Brotherhood of Steel. Those are all obviously the active ones. But then we start getting into stuff that isn't happening right now, but is planned for the near future. I've got Pokemon Colosseum, which I said a minute ago. I've got Subnautica Below Zero, because I desperately want to check that game out, but I do not want to give it the same treatment I gave its predecessor, because I have a very different set of feelings on that game. I have NFL Street for the GameCube, which is probably the first sports game I'll be checking out on this channel, because I really want to get around to showing you guys that game because it's very interesting. I have the DLC for Ghost of Tsushima, the Iki Island DLC, which I would like to check out in the future. I then have Paper Mario The Origami King, which of all of the Paper Mario sequels, Super Paper Mario, Color Splash, Sticker Star, and this one, that is the one that I feel would be the best to demonstrate like the other side of the Paper Mario coin to talk about. I've also got Shadow of the Tomb Raider to finally conclude all the Tomb Raider games here on the channel. I've covered the first two, but never got around to the third one. I've got Pikmin. I've got Yakuza 0, because I've always wanted to try the Yakuza series on here. I've got the Outer Worlds. I've got Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky, and then another Fallout 4 playthrough, which will obviously come much later, that is more centered around the Minutemen faction. So those are just examples of some ideas that I have on here, and there's a whole lot more beyond that. I mean, this list is probably 120 games long of things that I want to check out on this channel at some point. Having the time for all of that is truly the issue. That is the struggle. That is what I'm trying to manage, and due to the fact, again, that I have a full-time job, I have other obligations in life, I have other responsibilities, being able to do all of that is not super easy, and you'll just have to forgive me as we kind of jump around all over the place, go through growing pains, trying to figure out exactly what we're doing here. Like, I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you guys are too. This actually has already been one of the best years for my channel, if not the best year for my channel, and probably almost certainly will be by the time we hit year's end, just because of how much traffic it's generated, how many people are actually paying attention and giving a crap about what's going on. My subscriber growth has been pretty darn good. It's been awesome, even if a bit confusing and a bit overwhelming. So again, just bear with me. I plan to get to things. You're going to have to give me a while. We're going to keep working through this together. I don't want to go this crazy forever. I mean, I would love to. I honestly would love to. If I didn't have to worry about money, if I could just sit at home all day and make videos all day, I would upload 3 times a day, 4 times a day, all the frickin' time, just all sorts of series for you guys to pay attention to and watch and care about. And I would be happy with that. I would, but that's not how life works. And that's also not how YouTube works. That's not how this channel can work. And as much as I would like to treat this like a full-time job, I just physically can't. So hopefully all of that makes sense. Hopefully you guys are at least excited for some of that stuff that's coming in the future. We're going to work at this together. This is going to be, we're in it for the long haul. I'm still going strong and I am loving every second of it. But yeah, I feel like I need to sit down and explain those things every once in a while so people understand where I'm coming from and where everything is going. Okay, I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about this month. One of the shorter Let's Talk videos, but not the shortest, I think. I don't know, we're pretty darn close. We'll see what happens when I edit all of this down. Thank you guys also very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all enjoy the future content very, very much. And I will see you all in the next one.